Yo, what's up, Broncos country? How's it going today, guys? Sorry about last week. I really didn't have a whole lot of time this past weekend to make a video before and after the Super Bowl, like right after the Super Bowl. Uh, Muhammad was busy. I was busy. I was actually sick. So I just didn't get a chance to make a video this week. Me and Muhammad didn't. But I wanted to go over my gut reaction from the Super Bowl and talk about some of the trades, which uh me and Muhammad will do a video probably this weekend, and if we do, we'll go over these topics to get Muhammad's viewpoint. But I just wanted to get on here and do this quick video and talk about my thoughts to everything. So here we go. So the first thing I want to jump into is, of course, all the Broncos news. So over this last week, it's pretty much been, we've been hearing, now that we're in the off season, of course, the Broncos have been in the off season for almost a month, and now that the Super Bowl has gone or come and passed, it's all about the offseason now. It's all about free agency. It's all about the draft. It's all about the 2025 season. And a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff I've been seeing about the Broncos trading for all kinds of players. Of course, we knew about Garrett Wilson. People talking about the Broncos trading for Garrett Wilson. The Broncos signing T. Higgins, possibly, maybe Chris Godwin in free agency. Um, I've seen a few reports where people were talking about us trading for Myles Garrett, which I'm not saying I'm 100% on board with yet. Like, I just want to wait and see, how this team looks, come free agency, who the Broncos plan on keeping, who they plan on getting rid of. Um, but defensive line is a big part. Like, after watching that Super Bowl, like, I mean, I knew this already. Everybody should have known this, that defensive lines and offensive lines are the most important position outside of quarterback on an NFL team. And we desperately need to upgrade just not just our safety room, not just our inside linebacker group, not just, tight end, wide receiver, and running back, but we desperately need to upgrade our defensive line. Zach Allen was the only good one on there. There was a lot of talks about the Broncos trading for Myles Garrett. Now, like I said, depending on how the offseason goes, like who we sign, what we get, like, you know, I can maybe see the Broncos trading for him, just like Garrett Wilson. But to me, there's a lot of depth on for the defensive line in this draft. I really wouldn't want to give up draft capital. If I'm going to give up draft capital, I want to give up draft capital for something that's really going to help this offense. Honestly, yes, defensive line is important. I just said offensive and defensive line outside of quarterback are important, but this draft is deep at, I believe, running back, and it's deep at defensive line, if I remember correctly. So I'd rather just take a couple of defensive linemen in the draft. But with that said, talk about trading for Myles Garrett. I'm not on board with it yet, but you just have to wait and see how this next month plays out and how the start of free agency plays out. Next, I've actually been seeing some rumors, which I don't believe this would be a thing. Honestly, I know Sean Payton's been bringing a lot of guys over from New Orleans, but players and coaches. But with that said, I've seen some rumors, and I don't agree with this. I wouldn't want to do it because the guy is, I think, like 34 or 35 now, and that's Taysom Hill. I've seen rumors of the Broncos trading for Taysom Hill from the New Orleans Saints. I'm not on board with that. The guy is really old. Yes, he's that that piece that Sean Payton would look for. That I forgot what he calls it. Let me know in the comments, guys. I can't remember what Sean Payton calls that, but the kind of player where you can put like literally anywhere in the backfield, tight end, wide receiver, wherever. He can play multiple positions. And I wouldn't want to get Taysom Hill only for the simple fact, like I said, he's really old, and I don't think he has that much in him left. So I would say no on Taysom Hill. The last one I want to talk about is, Debo Samuel. Now that report came out today because Debo Samuel was talking about getting traded. He demanded a trade from the not New York Jets, the San Francisco 49ers. And a lot of people have been making a lot of stuff about this over the last day or so because he brought up the Broncos. He said that the Broncos offense with Bo Nix is something that's going to be special, which is indicating I think he might want to come to Denver with Sean Payton. And once again, it just depends. What's the draft cost going to be to get Debo Samuel here? I think the guy is like 29 or 30, if I remember correctly. But what would it take to get him here? What would the 49ers ask for trade value wise to get Debo Samuel here? Because if we can get him here for, a late round pick, not a very high draft pick, and he doesn't cost very much, then yeah, I'd be all for it. Because like I said, the guy's 30. And he's that typical player that Sean's looking for. That guy that can do everything, like a Taysom Hill. He can play running back. He can play receiver. He can play at tight end. He can do all of it. And yes, he's a little on the other side, but he's younger than Taysom Hill. So I would be okay with it depending on what the draft compensation would be and what we would have to pay him. So I would be fine with that. But moving on to the next thing I wanted to talk about. Well, let's talk about the Super Bowl and then we'll jump on the last thing I want to talk about. That the Super Bowl, I didn't watch it. Um I purposely made it a thing not to watch it because I truly thought the Chiefs were going to win. I thought the refs were going to bail them out as they've done all freaking season, winning all these close games, especially in the playoffs against the Bills and the Texans. They literally got bailed by horrific calls from the refs. And it kind of happened somewhat in the Super Bowl with that first play against the Eagles, A.J. Brown, where they said he had offensive PI when it clearly wasn't. So I didn't really watch the game after the game was over, and I knew, of course, I knew the Eagles won because, like, literally after the game, like, before the game even ended, with like a minute something left, it was all over Facebook. Eagles won. And I did go back Monday and watch the highlights, and I will have to say, based on the highlights I've seen, the Eagles like destroyed the Chiefs. Like they absolutely demolished them. That was a joke. That proved to me that all year the Chiefs have been getting favorable calls and they should not have been in the freaking Super Bowl. Like, you would have had a better game with Buffalo in there. You would have had a better game with the Ravens or the Texans. God, even the Broncos probably would have been a better fight than that. That was a joke. And I saw somebody post something on Twitter. The one run play where Patrick Mahomes was running around and the flag got thrown, he picks up the first down. I think it was like third quarter. Travis Kelsey's just standing there, just watching. Like this team didn't look like they were trying at all. It's like, okay, we don't care. But I don't think that was the case. Like this game to me proved this is what the Chiefs team is. This is how they're constructed. This is what this Chiefs team is without ref interference. Now, I'm not saying every call in the history of Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes thing is, a call that, helps them win games. But there's been a lot of calls over the years and crucial moments in games that the Chiefs get that go their way, whether it's a phantom call, against the team they're playing against or for the Chiefs, whichever it is, that goes the Chiefs' way that helps them win games. For instance, the Super Bowl a few years ago against the freaking against the Eagles. The phantom holding call on their DB on Juju Smith-Schuster that literally let the Chiefs grind out the rest of the clock and just kick the game-winning field goal and win the game. That was not a holding call. So that to me proves that the Chiefs did not belong in the Super Bowl. They did not belong there. They were too bad. The signs, like we've seen it all year. If you watch any Chiefs games throughout the year, all year, and you don't have any bias towards the Chiefs, the Chiefs were hanging on by the skin of their teeth, and the refs were, giving them calls in these crucial moments. Like whenever you have a low score game, a big call from the refs can dictate the outcome of games. I'm sick to death of hearing this crap of, oh, the refs and the flags don't dictate the outcomes of games. The players do. No, the refs and the flags can alter and dictate the outcome of games depending on when they're thrown and what they're thrown for. And the Chiefs all year, all freaking year, have been, getting these calls in these crucial games, these low score close games, or even just close games. They've been getting these nitpicky calls, these ticky tack calls for them to go in their favor, for them to win. Honestly, if you watch this team, if they don't call, I'd say half of these calls that went the Chiefs' way this season don't go in their way, or these phantom calls, half of them don't go in the Chiefs' favor. The Chiefs, I guarantee you, I will say it right now, do not make the playoffs this year. They would not make the playoffs this past year if half of them phantom calls in the regular season didn't go their way. They would have been probably by a 10-17, maybe 11-6 at best. Probably a 10-7 more than 9-18. Probably missed the playoffs. That's just my opinion. And the Super Bowl with the Eagles, like, and people have been talking about all year, the Eagles have the best roster. They got Saquon, they got AJ, they got Jalen, they got Smith. They got this dominant defense with Vic Fangio. They have like everybody was saying, they have the best roster in the league. The Chiefs got freaking absolutely annihilated. They got humiliated in the Super Bowl. That game to me proved if the refs call a fair game, they don't call these ticky tack calls all season. The Chiefs are maybe barely above 500 or sub 500 this year and don't make the playoffs. This is what, like, and no call the refs could have made would have changed the outcome of this game, even for the Chiefs. It don't, or for the Eagles, it wouldn't have mattered. The Eagles blew them out. They absolutely freaking destroyed them. I went back and I watched guys that do the all 22 film, like Kurt Warner. There's another guy I watch. They literally scored nothing in the first half. Zero. Zilch. They scored nothing in the first half. That is a team that does not belong in the Super Bowl. Whenever these phantom calls, the refs do not give these phantom calls to the Chiefs, they are a mediocre team. They've been a mediocre team all year. And if the refs don't give them these ticky tack calls, the Chiefs, I believe, do not make the playoffs this past season. Now, you'll say, well, who would win the division, Eddie? I think it would have probably been the Chargers. The Chargers probably honestly would have won this division this year. And then the Broncos probably would have came in second. I would say the Chiefs or Broncos and Chiefs probably would have fought for second, and then Broncos or Chiefs would have came in third. One of those two teams would have came in second and third. But I think the Chargers would have won the division this year if the Chiefs didn't get all these ticky-tack phantom calls all year, because that Super Bowl proved they didn't deserve to be there. They were not that team. They're not that team. And they should have made it past the Houston Texans. They should, like I said, again, the Texans would have been a better freaking against the Eagles would have been a better game. The Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, these teams in the Super Bowl against the Eagles would have been so much of a better game. So much of a better game. So, and honestly, what's up, Mohammed? Thanks, man. And honestly, that brings me into my last point that I want to talk about before I get off here tonight. The Chiefs have a lot of free agents coming up this offseason. And I think their biggest loss this offseason is going to be probably their inside linebacker, Nick Bolton. Now, I've seen a lot of Bronco fans talk about the Broncos picking him up, which I wouldn't mind. He's a good inside linebacker, but also Bronco fans are talking about picking up that Zach Bond kid from Philadelphia that just won a Super Bowl, that picked off Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I'd be fine with either or because I don't think Cody Barton's going to come back. Like, unless the Eagles pay Braun or the Chiefs pay Nick Bolton, those guys are going to be free agents. You could probably pick one up, and then you got Alex Singleton coming back next year. You know, and honestly, I like Alex Singleton. I think he is a starting caliber inside linebacker in this league. You bring in Braun or you bring in Bolton, your inside linebacker group, I think right there, you'd be solidified at least for the next year, maybe two. You know, depending on what happens with Alex Singleton. So, with that said, I'm fine with that. The Chiefs are going, like, they're going to take a major step back next year. I guarantee you. Like, the last time the Chiefs lost in the Super Bowl, yes, they still made the playoffs, but they lost in the AFC Championship game. But with all these free agents, and now the news came out today that Travis Kelce is contemplating retirement. I'm sorry, but yes, he was not good in the Super Bowl. He wasn't good in the Buffalo Bills game. He was all right in the Texans game, but he really didn't have a great statistical year, and he didn't really have a great year all around. I think Travis Kelce's done, honestly. I think his body's done. I think he realizes it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does come back for another year. Maybe try to go with maybe he tries with the Chiefs next year and maybe try to get another Super Bowl because he doesn't want to go out with a Super Bowl loss like this. But I think he's done. Like I said, I saw that one play on X where someone showed it to where literally Mahomes is running around and Kelce is just standing there through the entire play. Like he's not doing nothing. He's just standing there like not block. He literally put his arm out like this to one Eagles player, but it literally did nothing. I think Travis Kelce's done. This roster for the Chiefs is going to take, they're losing a lot of players. And then today I was watching Colin Cowherd, which, guys, I really don't like Colin Cowherd that much. Sometimes he has some good points. Most of the time, I think he's an idiot. But today he made a good statement that the Chiefs receiving room, especially, has been wrapped together with bubble gum. Like over the last couple of years, the Chiefs receiving core is not good. Juju Smith-Schuster. You got all these young guys they drafted. They thought were even running backs like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Pacheco. He was hurt. He didn't even look that good. They brought back Kareem Hunt. Travis Kelce might retire. This roster for the Chiefs is going to look a lot different, and I don't think they're going to be as dominating next year. Now, yes, we know Andy Reid will be coming back next year. He already said he would. But I don't think it matters. I really don't. And I want to say this too, because I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. The Chiefs, people want to talk about them as a dynasty. They're not a dynasty. They've never been a dynasty and they never will be a dynasty. I don't like Tom Brady because I think he got favorable calls and he's got caught cheating in the past. But he's never going to be Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. He's never going to be that. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, I think maybe got at best 10 years left in the NFL. A decade. Is it possible he wins another Super Bowl? Probably. Yeah, it's probably going to happen. But he's only got 3 Super Bowls. There's no way in hell I see Patrick Mahomes getting 4 more Super Bowl rings. I don't see it. And I'll tell you why. What's the main reason? Like I've said this before, so if you guys know what I'm about to say, whatever. For 20 years, 20 freaking years, Tom Brady feasted on a horrible division with not the Eagles, with the Dolphins, with the Jets, with the Bills, franchises that could not find a head coach and couldn't find a quarterback. For 20 years, Tom Brady feasted on that division, a horrible division. That is the reason I've seen this time and time again. I'm not just saying this like out of the blue. This has actually been well documented. People have talked about this over the years. The reason why Tom Brady made so many Super Bowls, won so many divisions, made it so deep in the playoffs, is because every year he would win his division. Now, a few years here and there, maybe the Dolphins or whatever would sneak in and win the division. But for the most part, for 20 plus years, Tom Brady won that division because the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills were horrible. Could not find the right quarterback. Could not find the right head coach. They were terrible. They feasted on it, which is good. For a team trying to win multiple Super Bowls like the Patriots did, it's good to have a bad division because you're guaranteed probably at least at the minimum 4 wins, most likely 5, if not 6 wins a year. Right there. Now, that's not to take away from the, good talent they did have on that roster, whatever. Or, like I said, I think the Patriots cheated. They were shown to be cheating, but whatever. I'm just saying, if they were in division like, let's just say, like the NFC North, we have the Ravens. You have the Bengals. You have I'm drawing the blank here, guys. I'm sorry. You have the Baltimore Ravens. You have the Cincinnati Bengals. You have the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Cleveland Browns put them out in the past year. They haven't been good hardly at all in the past 20 years. But the Steelers always make the playoffs. Somehow or another, they always make the playoffs every year. They play the Baltimore Ravens and Bengals tough. They always play their division rivals tough. Cincinnati, maybe before 2020, not so much, but in the last 4 years, Joe Burrow, their head coach, I'm drawing the blank with his name. They found their head coach and they found their quarterback. So they've been good. The Baltimore Ravens, Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson. Before that, it was Joe Flacco who was solid. But I'm just saying, that division, if the Patriots were in that division for 20 years, I guarantee you they don't have 6 Super Bowl rings. I guarantee you they don't win the division almost every single freaking year. They feasted on a bad division. Now, this is the point I'm trying to get to with that. Kansas City, since 2019, 2019. Since 2019, since Patrick Mahomes played his whole first year as a starter, he has dealt with a shit division. He has dealt with a division that has been absolute garbage outside of the Kansas City Chiefs themselves. The Raiders could not find the right head coach or quarterback. I mean, you can maybe say the Raiders. They're for a brief stint in Patrick Mahomes at the start of his career with Derek Carr and whoever their head coach was, but their head coach was always, was it John Gruden? Was it Josh McDaniels? Was it, whoever, because they were going through coaches. Derek Carr was maybe an average quarterback at best. Chargers have been terrible. Like, yes, they found their future franchise QB in what was it, 2019, 2020 or whatever? They found Justin Herbert. Or was it 2018? They found Justin Herbert, but they had horrible, Anthony Lynn, horrible head coach. Brandon Staley, horrible head coach. They couldn't get over the hump. So they were, they had the quarterback. They just didn't have the right head coach, and they kept failing every year. And then, of course, our team, the Broncos, have been atrocious since Super Bowl 50. I mean, the last good season we had before this year was 2016. We went 9-8, had a winning season, but we still missed the playoffs. For the last 8 to 9 years, the Broncos have been searching for a quarterback, searching for a head coach. We had VJ for 2 years. That didn't go anywhere. We had Case Keenum and I don't know, Drew Lock and Paxton Lynch going at quarterback. Then 2019 through 2021. You had Vic Fangio. You had the likes of Joe Flacco. You had maybe a little promise there with Drew Lock, but that flared out quick. Then you had Teddy Bridgewater. You had Brandon Allen. You freaking had all these starting caliber quarterbacks. Or not really starting caliber. You had all these starting quarterbacks for years, just trying to find something that worked. Then in 2022, you finally go out and you hire an offensive minded head coach and you go out and trade for Russell Wilson. Now, looking back on that retrospect with, Nathaniel Hackett, with Russell Wilson, we could talk about, oh, that was a terrible decision. What were the Broncos thinking? At the time, nobody was saying that. We hired Hackett, we traded for, Russell Wilson. Nobody was saying, oh my God, we traded for Russell Wilson. What are we doing? Or we hired Nathaniel Hackett. What are we doing? Broncos country, the majority of them were happy about the Nathaniel Hackett hire. We're like, finally, we get an offensive minded head coach and not a defensive minded guy. Oh, we finally got a quarterback that's a Super Bowl winner, that's a all pro, that's a freaking, pro bowler, and Russell Wilson that has great years almost every year he played in Seattle. And we thought the quarterback carousel was over, and we thought the head coaching carousel was over. Nobody could have predicted what was going to happen the 2022 season until it did. And then finally, after that whole debacle, we finally go out. We get a real live head coach in Sean Payton. He comes in year one. He changes the culture. He gets the best at what's remaining in Russell Wilson. Goes 8-9. Now, still a losing record. Still no playoffs, but respectable from the year prior, which was 5 wins. And then he has the balls. Sean Payton has the biggest cojones in the NFL to me. You cut a quarterback that you pay a $245 million contract to, which contract didn't even start yet at that time, didn't start until this year, cuts him this offseason, takes an $85 million dead cap hit, largest in NFL history, gets rid of him, takes the sixth best quarterback out of the draft in Bo Nix. Year one with Bo Nix and an $85 million dead cap hit with a rookie quarterback and not a whole lot of talent takes this team to the playoffs. First winning record in 9 years. 8 years. First playoff appearance in 9 years. Like, this team has made such a big jump over the last couple of years till this year. And my point being is the Raiders have always been garbage. The Raiders have been garbage for the past 6-7 years since Patrick Mahomes has been in the league. The Chargers have been garbage for the past 7 years since Mahomes has been in the league, and the Broncos have been trash for the past 7 years since Mahomes has been in the league. But now that is not the case anymore for this division. Now the Raiders, you could say, yeah, they're still a dumpster fire. They hired Pete Carroll, but they have no plans at quarterback, and Pete Carroll was a dumb hire in my opinion because. Yeah, you're going to bring him in to change the culture. That's fine. But he's 74. He's going to retire. He only signed a 3-year contract. He's going to retire probably at the end of that. There's no way he's going to be around for a long-term rebuild to find a quarterback, develop him, and do all that crap. So the Raiders are going to be bad for the foreseeable future. The only reason why they brought him in, most people said, was because of change of culture. But he's going to change the culture. But then once the new head coach comes in after he's gone, he's going to change the culture again. It could be a terrible change. Who knows? But with that stated, you got the Chargers who are up and coming. They got a good head coach in Jim Harbaugh. They took a 49ers team now. There was one critique I had of this, and I've talked about it before, but I'll get to that in a second. You had Jim Harbaugh that took a 49ers team that was terrible and got them to the Super Bowl within 4 years. Okay. So, and now he's got Justin Herbert. Now they played this year, they made the playoffs, and Justin Herbert choked again. That's to be continued. Let's give Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh another year and see what happens. Okay. But then you also got the Broncos, who finally are out, almost out of that dead money from the Russell Wilson stuff. They found their franchise guy in Bo Nix. They got their future head coach in Sean Payton for, I guarantee you, the next 10 years, if not longer. And they're going to build this roster, and they're going to be a lot more competitive next year. My point is here, guys, is that the Chiefs are not winning this division next year. I will put money on it right now. The Broncos or Chargers will take this division next year. Kansas City's going to take a step back after losing the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce might retire, and they're losing a bunch of key players for their defense. The Chiefs will not win this division next year. The Broncos or Chargers. Now, that's dependent on what both teams, the Chargers and Broncos, do in free agency and in the draft. Now, we all know that the Broncos are going to be heavily looking at running back. That's the main thing this offseason is get a running game for freaking Bo Nix. Get a tight end one. Get another safety. Get an inside linebacker. Get more defensive line help to help stop the freaking run because we brought in all these guys the last couple of years, and we were getting gashed last year in the run game still. And you need more. You need to be able to get more guys in here that can actually get to the quarterback with a 4-man rush rather than have to send blitzes all the time. So, and you need another wide receiver. The Broncos are probably going to do that. They got $53 million in cap space this offseason to go out and spend. They're going to be big players in free agency, I think, this year, and they're going to get their tight end one and their RB1 of the future in this draft. Okay? So I'm calling it now. The Chiefs are going to take a major step back this year. They're losing the Super Bowl. Probably Travis Kelce retiring. Probably, and they're losing all these key players. The Broncos and Chargers are ascending. The Chiefs they're coming back down. So the Chiefs will not win this division next year. And it's just funny to me that people want to talk about, oh, the Chiefs, they're this great team. Dude, they're not, especially this past year. They were not good. They were winning these really close games they probably shouldn't have won, like the Bengals game, like the Chargers game, like the Raiders game. You can even go a step further and even say that Broncos game. They shouldn't have made it to the Super Bowl even after making the playoffs. The Texans were the better team. The Bills were a better team. So it's just crazy to me that people think the Chiefs are just going to continue to do what they do. It's so funny to me. Whenever I watch national media pundits talk about the Chiefs trying to catch the Patriots for the 20 years, Mahomes trying to catch Brady, Andy Reid trying to catch Bill Belichick, they always, I never, ever hear none of them mention the fact that the Patriots feasted on a terrible division for 20 years. The Dolphins, Jets, and Bills could not find the right head coach, could not find the right quarterback, and they were bottom dwellers in the NFL, and the Patriots feasted on that. The fact that these people think the Chiefs are going to do the same thing, even though the Broncos and Chargers are going to be better and most likely have a better roster than the Chiefs this next year and for the foreseeable future, is crazy to me. Like the Broncos and Chargers got their quarterbacks. The Broncos and Chargers have their head coaches. What makes you think the Chiefs are going to run this division? Like seriously, Patrick Mahomes, I'm sorry, he's not good. Maybe he was good in the first couple of years of his career, but the last couple of years, 2020, I would say probably earliest 2022, when they played the Eagles, that year they played the Eagles the first time in the Super Bowl. That year, Patrick Mahomes did not play well through the entire year. It was the defense that was literally winning them games. Same for 2023 and same for 2024. Now, yeah, could that change course if they can get actual decent weapons? But they've been bubble gumming this freaking offensive line together for the past 3-4 years, and they've been bubble gumming the receiver group together and the running back room. Their tight end room, they were solid with Travis Kelce, but now that he's older, he might retire. They're going to have to address that too. They're going to have to address their defense this offseason drastically. They're going to have to address their offensive line, their receiving room, their running back room, and their tight end room. I'm telling you guys right now, this team is not going to be the same team next year as they were in years past. And like I said, these last couple of years, they really weren't that good. They were winning because of their defense. They weren't winning because of the offense. Now, that's not to say that Patrick Mahomes didn't occasionally make the play sometimes in the game. He did, but also at the same time, like I said, the refs helped them. In close games, these crucial calls go the Chiefs' way. It helps them win. So I'm just the Chiefs, in my opinion, like they're gonna step back down. They're gonna be a normal NFL team after this year because I also think the reason why there wasn't so many calls. Now you can call me a conspiracy theorist, and I know the NFL had a high rating this year, televised wise, but I think the NFL really truly heard the fans complain about these horrendous calls, these bogus calls always going in the Chiefs' favor. These ticky tack calls going in the Chiefs' favor, helping them win games. And the NFL had to do something because people were getting upset. Like it was like a national thing. People, fans of every team out there, not just AFC West teams, not just Eagles fans, not Bills or Texans fans, every freaking fan base out there was complaining because it was so blatantly obvious they were trying to help the Chiefs get back to the Super Bowl in three-peat. And people were sick of it. And this game, the Super Bowl against the Eagles, proves to me the Chiefs have not been as good or as not as good as everybody made them out to be. If the refs do not call these ticky tack calls, the Chiefs, I guarantee you, are not in the Super Bowl and they're probably not in the playoffs this year. So I'm excited for the future. Like I said, I think the Broncos or Chargers are going to be the two teams next year fighting for the division. Because they're ascending, the Chiefs are going to come back down. They're on their way down. They're going to hit. And you know what? Maybe towards the end of Patrick Mahomes' career, and that's the other thing too. Andy Reid says he's coming back for next year. Who knows the year after that? I guarantee you within the next 5 years, Andy Reid retires. And I believe strongly once Reid retires, that team, regardless of Patrick Mahomes is there, we know Travis Kelce is probably going to retire within the next couple of years. I give it 5 at most and Reid retires. Once those two are gone, even if Patrick Mahomes is still there, this team's done. Like they're going to go back to basement dwellers. The good thing about the Patriots, like I said before, they feasted on the bad division, but also it's mostly the head coach thing. Brady and Belichick were there for 20 years. That franchise didn't start like, yeah, they had a 10-year drought of the Super Bowl, but they were still winning games. They were still making the playoffs. They just weren't getting to the Super Bowl and winning it. The Chiefs are going to fall into a slump probably here soon where they're going to miss the playoffs for a few years because Reid's going to retire. Once Reid retires, it's over for the Chiefs. Unless they find the right head coach again, which I doubt they will. Maybe they do. I don't know. But the thing about the Patriots was Belichick and Brady were together for 20 years. As long as those two were together, you could guarantee they were going to make the playoffs. You can guarantee it. But Andy Reid, if he retires, even with Patrick Mahomes there and Kelce retires, it's over. Like that whole thing, like, do I think they'll get one more Super Bowl? Probably. They'll probably get one more. Maybe. I don't know. You got a lot of good coaches now in the AFC, and you got a lot of good quarterbacks. You got CJ Stroud, you got Josh Allen, you got Lamar Jackson, you got maybe Justin Herbert, maybe Bo Nix. We have to see next year and see what happens. Um, trying to think of some other quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, you know, uh, you got quarterbacks in this division. And the Browns might even take one this year. They might take a Cam Ward or a Shador Sanders. The Titans, they're the number one overall pick. They're either going to take Shador or Cam Ward, and maybe they turn into a superstar in the NFL. Like this conference alone, dude, it's not going to be pretty for the Chiefs. I'm telling you right now, and especially this division. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm going to jump off here, and I will talk to you guys Saturday night. Like I said, me and Muhammad will probably be back Saturday, just depending on our schedules and if we got anything going. But I wanted to make this video since I didn't make one last week. But I'm so happy the freaking Eagles destroyed. And I mean, they absolutely shitted on the freaking Chiefs. The Chiefs didn't even look like they wanted to be in the Super Bowl. And All honesty, they deserve that. The NFL deserve that. After propping this mediocre team up with Patrick Mahomes all season, propping them up, giving them BS calls all season, the NFL and the refs, they deserve this. They deserve that 40. And honestly, one more thing I wanted to touch on. This game wasn't even close. Don't even look at the final score. I watched the highlights. The first half, the Chiefs didn't score nothing. At halftime, what was it? 27 or 34-0? The Chiefs didn't score anything until midway or late in the third quarter. This, like, the final score makes you believe in Patrick Mahomes' final stat line, makes you believe, oh, well, man, this was a competitive game. Patrick Mahomes played well. The Chiefs were keeping it close probably all game, 22-40. And at the end, the Eagles just kind of pulled away. No, that's not what happened. It was 34-0 at one point. It was 40-6 at one point. No, this game was not close. The Chiefs got demolished. I mean, absolutely. Like, this is a team you're just like, holy hell, what the hell just happened? Like, how did that happen to the Chiefs? They got Patrick Mahomes. They got Andy Reid. They got their asses whipped. And it was so satisfying to see. This is what happens when you prop up a mediocre team. You give a mediocre team all these calls that go their way all year. Like, this was not a 15-2 team. Now, I say 15-2, a lot of people are going to argue against, oh, well, the Broncos played their backups. Or the Broncos played the Chiefs backups in week 18. What's your point? Those same people will be sitting here saying, well, Patrick Mahomes didn't have that bad of a stat line. Dude, the freaking stats he had towards the end of the game were against the freaking Eagles. They were literally celebrating on the sideline. The Eagles players and coaches were celebrating on the sideline with the backups in the game. That's how Patrick Mahomes got like 2 touchdowns and made it a 22-40 game. He played like garbage against the Eagles starters. The only thing the Chiefs did well in this game was they limited Saquon Barkley. That was the only thing they did well. Only thing. And those are the same people, like I said, the same people that say, oh, well, the Broncos beat up the Chiefs back. What the? Are you serious? Patrick Mahomes couldn't do nothing against the Eagles starters. 6 points against the Eagles starters. That's all he got. Against the Eagles backups, he got, what was it? Like 16 points against the Eagles backups? Whoop-de-freaking-do. I'm sorry. The Chiefs are not going to, they're not going to be in the Super Bowl next year. I'll put money on that right now. They're not going to win the division. I'll put money on that right now. The NFL and the rest prop this mediocre team up all year to make us believe, like, oh my God, they're so lucky. They're so good. When they need Patrick Mahomes and them need to make a play, they make it. No, they got bailed out with bullshit penalties all year to help them win games. They got bailed out by bullshit penalties all throughout the playoffs to help them win the divisional round and the AFC Championship game, only to get to the Super Bowl and get their asses kicked by a far superior team because the Chiefs did not belong there. The Bills belong there. The Texans belong there. The Baltimore Ravens belonged in the Super Bowl, not the Chiefs. And this is what the NFL gets for propping up this mediocre team. Maybe now they see that, hey, the Chiefs ain't that good. And they're going to be worse next year because they're going to lose a lot of players, probably Travis Kelce too. And the Chargers and Broncos are going to get better. The whole AFC in itself is going to get better. You don't think the Bengals were bad this year because of their defense, but they were still in the playoff hunt last week of the season because Joe Burrow was freaking playing with his hair on fire. You don't think the Bengals are going to beef up their defense this offseason? You don't think the Bills are going to go out and get another true number one receiver, maybe beef up their defense? You don't think the Ravens are going to do the same? The Steelers possibly? The Texans? All these teams, the Jags, the Broncos, the Chargers, you don't think none of these teams are going to beef up their teams to make it harder? The Chiefs have no shot next year. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have, I'd say, maybe a 10% chance to make the Super Bowl next year. 10. If I had to put money on it next year, and this is my far way too early prediction. But if I had to guess who's going to be in the Super Bowl next year, I would say probably the Detroit Lions and probably the Buffalo Bills, honestly. Now, as a Broncos fan, you know, to me, now that the Broncos have their head coach and their franchise guy, my goal is Super Bowl for the Broncos. But I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're going to make a deeper run to the playoffs next year, but I think they're going to come up just short from making the Super Bowl. But 2026, that's the year the Broncos need to be like, hey, we're contenders for the Super Bowl. But I think next year, I think it'll be the Lions and Bills. That's my early prediction. Buffalo Bills and Detroit Lions, because I think Buffalo, Josh Allen, even Lamar Jackson, it could be Lamar Jackson. I think it's personally going to be Buffalo getting to the Super Bowl next year. But the Chiefs are not going to make it. They might squeak into the playoffs next year, but again, like I said, with the way everything's going for them, they could possibly miss the playoffs. Now, I'm not predicting that. I do think it's a possibility, though. Now the Chargers and Broncos are ascending. I think it's possible the Chiefs could miss the playoffs next year. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm going to jump off here. Peace.